Well, Ted, thank you very much for the opportunity to come here and talk about Measure 65. It is actually probably in a list of 12 measures facing you as voters in the ballot. You know, you had your special voters pamphlet just for measures. I think it may be the only measure that's brought to you by people who don't at least spend part of their time as a living legislating. I see Bill Sizemore here, and he does a lot of that. The legislature does that. This is the one that it got to the ballot with the signatures of 100,000 people, failed narrowly in 2006, but it's here before. And I want to talk a little bit about the main provisions and why I think it's such an extraordinarily good idea for the state of Oregon to do this. And I will note that the current system that we are trying to replace is one that not a single living Oregonian had any hand in devising. It has literally been in place over 100 years, and though you should not lightly change things that have been around for a long time, I think the U.S. Constitution is a terrific living document, there comes a time in other arenas when we should adjust to the changed circumstances and the realities and do things that make a lot more sense for our election system. I want to take you forward to May of 2010, the next primary election, and Measure 65 has passed. What's different? A lot. You have races for U.S. Senate, for the governor, for legislative, U.S. Congress, other offices that we currently elect on a partisan basis. And now, every candidate who wants that office is running on that ballot in May. Whether they're Democrats or Republicans or Greens or Libertarians or just none of the above, true independents, they all can file, they all can run. They then will have an opportunity to reach out to all the voters in a district or the state and talk about why they think they deserve to be elected. They can rally their supporters. They can raise their money. They can knock on their doors. And then every voter, regardless of their party registration or lack thereof, can look at all of the candidates, and regardless of the candidate's party registration or lack thereof, can pick the best person for every job. Does it matter if they pick a Democrat in one race, a Republican, a Pacific Green, a Libertarian, Independent as they go down the ballot? Not at all. They get to pick the best. And then the top two go to the finals. There is a fundamental difference between this system and the current one, which we have basically inherited. Nobody here had any say in creating. And it's this. You have to earn your way onto the November ballot on the basis of the votes you get in this first round, as opposed to automatically be guaranteed each party gets a position just simply because they're a party. Now, I think this is going to be a big part of the debate that Mr. Woolley and I have, and I respect him. I respect anybody who runs for office, and particularly someone with the good judgment to run for my former office, Secretary of State. It's a great opportunity. I thank everyone here for the privilege of being able to serve. But this system is one that is truly open. In fact, what could be more open than one that lets you vote for the best candidate regardless, and truly fair. It treats every voter on an equal basis. Every voter is fairly treated. No one any longer has to renounce their independence, for example, or membership in another party to pick the right person. And yeah, sure, if you're independent, there's close to 500,000 people who either belong to non-affiliated or minor parties. Sure, you can re-register as a Democrat or Republican in order to participate. But why? Why should you have to? And even if you do, you can still only then pick the choices from among that choice. Once you go D, you got to stick down the D route. Once you go R, you got to stick down the R route. This would prevent Oregonians from having to go through that kind of contortions. They could vote for whoever they want. Now, why do I think this is so important at this time and place in Oregon history? Is this a solution in search of a problem, as many people that have debated this seem to be saying? Well, if you think there's no problem with our current system of politics, then you're in great disagreement with the vast majority of Oregon voters, who, by the way, 74% of them in every demographic group, Democrat, Republican, Independent, young, old, across the state, support the open primary idea as a better way to run the election system. We have approval ratings with the U.S. Congress at 9%, and the Oregon legislature about 22%. Never have we seen such frustration and anger among voters for the inability to constructively discuss, much less bring solutions to the table of key problems. Last time we had a primary that didn't involve the presidential race, because that sort of really skews the numbers. Once in a generation, we happen to have 75% of the Democrats voted last time around. But in 2006, we had a 39% voter participation. 6 of 10 didn't even participate. The median age was 60. And of course, as I approach 60, part of me says, well, is that such a big problem? Folks, that's a big, huge problem. At the end of the day, the open primary is about the notion of accountability in government and how do we ensure that we have a system that best serves all of us. And yeah, we'll have disagreements. And you look at the people who like this: Vic Atiyeh, John Kitzhaber; Norma Paulus, Phil Keisling; okay, Earl Blumenauer and Eric Sten, and Peggy Fowler. Eric wanted to take over PGE, and Peggy Fowler obviously didn't want that. We have people all over the ideological spectrum saying this is a good idea because it gets people more involved, it doesn't freeze them out, and it creates a lot more competition. You think about it, when you have to run that first round and second round, races that are now over in the primary, and I would argue that 90% of the races for the legislature are done with. Once you win the primary, you've won the election. This would create competition in those places. So, in summary, the open primary is very simple and basic. It lets every voter always vote for the best candidate, treats every voter on an equal basis. Parties can still be in play. They exist. They can support candidates, even endorse candidates, and the candidate agrees that'll appear on the ballot. But it's information for you. You make the last decision. You get to choose who you think is best. And then the top two go to the finals, and we create a situation that I think is a lot better for government because everybody now has had a chance at every step of the way to choose to be involved and thus is accountable for the results. Thank you very much.